So I'm Todd Lowe, president of the Village League to Save Incline Assets. And the story that people really need to know, because it's a big one, is 17 years ago, or more than 17 years ago, 2003, in Washoe County, we had a rogue assessor who went off the rails, invented a bunch of novel, never used anywhere else in the world, and never used anywhere else in Washoe County or Nevada, assessment methods to appraise properties in Incline Village and Crystal Bay, that the result of which was a bloodbath. Assessments went up 2, 3x, some went down. They went all over the map because the methods they developed were both unreliable and clearly unfair. So that created a stir, and that stir became what we call the tax revolt. For the ensuing 17 years, a group of citizens in Incline Village, completely supported by the community, both with time and money, although not a single person was ever paid to do this, fought to stop the unfair assessment practices and appraisals and the excess taxes that were being collected by the county because of these wildly high appraisals. That took no fewer than 11 lawsuits and 4 or 5 trips to the Supreme Court, because the county, well, for several reasons, but the biggest reason is that the county was not willing to admit that they'd made a mistake. And eventually we got Bob McGowan, who was the assessor at the time, out of office, but he was replaced by Josh. And Josh was a good guy, but he was made from the same fabric as McGowan. And he continued to fight us as we tried to assert our claim that we were overassessed, and we wanted the excess taxes returned to us that were collected. And had the county done that when we first raised our hand, and when I say we, I mean thousands of Incline Village residents filed petitions to get their taxes corrected. And by and large, they failed because everyone was drinking the same Kool-Aid that the assessor was pouring out. It's like, well, maybe we made up the methods, and maybe they were wrong, but we came up with the right answer, and we feel good about the answer. Well, none of that was true, and it took a long, long time to not only discover how wrong it actually was, but to get acknowledgement that it was a problem. It really. Nothing really changed. We continued to fight in court. We always won. But in the tax law world, you have to win for every year that there's a problem. So you have to, and when you make an appraisals and you only do them once every 5 years, you got 5 years of appraisals to get reversed and to get set aside. So that each one of those in itself is a bunch of procedures and lawsuits. So things didn't really change for us until we were advanced enough through the court system to beat Washoe County and their district attorney, who was relentless, using our own money to fight us in trying to stop us. And the best I could tell, the strategy was, well, let's just fight until they all die. and then they'll go away and the problem's solved. Well, some of us did die, actually, but we kept going and going and going. And then things changed. And that was when Mike Clark became assessor. So the first thing he did is he made sure that appraisals were done the way they're supposed to be done. And he got his staff in line with the idea that we're going to follow the law. We're not out there to cause things to go up or down. We just do what we're supposed to do the way we're supposed to do it. As a consequence, the number of petitions, people complaining about their assessments, went from thousands really essentially to zero. So we came to an accord. Mike Clark and his staff were behaving how they're supposed to behave. We had won and had our appraisals reset. But our job wasn't done because Washoe County was still hanging on to all the excess taxes they collected back in 2003, 2004, and 2005. And we felt it was unfair for them to keep that. And so Mike started a campaign to convince the commissioners and the county, and I think the DA too, to come to their senses and say, look, you've lost this. They're going to keep on fighting, and you need to settle. And because if you settle, the cost to the county will be far, far less than if you keep fighting. And in fact, until we did settle, which we eventually did, and I'm going to talk about, the county was looking at paying us $80 million. As far as property tax lawsuits and repayments, that's certainly bigger than anything that's ever happened in Washoe County or Nevada, but probably in the United States of America. $80 million of taxes to be refunded. And that wasn't because we said so, a judge said so. And the county was getting ready to continue to fight and appeal that decision against them. So Mike went to work and started to talk about the benefits of coming to a settlement with us. And the next thing you know, we get a call, say, will you come in and talk with us? And this was literally on the eve of the meeting where they decided to appeal it and keep the charade going. So we began a settlement process, which was a series of meetings over several months' time. Mike was a part of those meetings, as well, from time to time, different commissioners. And I think that Mike's involvement and his proactive suggestions for ways to make this work, because he knew what could work. And we had developed a relationship with him that where he understood what our sensitivities are. So he could make proposals, present ideas that they could embrace and consider. So that process went on, and I think between Mike, Commissioner Birkbigler, and the new county manager, Mike persuaded all of them to get together and do the right thing. And really the obvious thing, as tough as it was, especially with the district attorney still in a position of saying, well, we don't think so. But the district attorney was excluded from the settlement. And that was crucial. And it was necessary just to have a conversation. So we had good conversations. And again, Eric Brown was in there, Birkbigler was in there, Jeannie Herman was in there, and these were people that were listening and seeing the reason between of what Mike was proposing and the sense that it made. And at the end of this process, we all got in our cars and drove to the Supreme Court and went before a settlement judge, and in a few hours' time banged out all the details of the settlement that resulted in the payout to the taxpayers in Incline Village and Crystal Bay. And that's a short version of a very, very long story.